1-0-1-0-1-0-1. Really like this logo when it was relevant.
And welcome to Video Game Talk. We've got some exciting news. I'm Rich Alvarez.
And I'm Garrett Allen.
So anyways, guys, there's been some news today, and actually quite relevant. I mean, it's no surprise to anyone who has been following this channel for a long time that, like, we are very much versed in Nintendo. This whole channel got started with obviously huge Nintendo things, you know, obviously. But so many of you will be pleased that today's news is very Nintendo-centric. It was announced a couple of months ago, actually back in April, that Nintendo's president, being clear, president of Nintendo Japan, don't worry, Reggie feels a Manny. Reggie is still the president of Nintendo America. But as you know, the great Iwata died a couple years ago, and then I don't want to mispronounce his name. The other guy, Keisha Shimi, I'm just going to butcher it. The other president took over, and then he announced in April that he was retiring. So today was actually
Kimishima?
Thank you, Garrett.
Yeah.
He does martial arts, so.
Sumi Kimishima?
So,
I just get exposed to the Japanese vernacular a little bit more. It's whatever. Don't listen to me.
I am in no meaning to. I do not mean to be insulting whatsoever. I just cannot pronounce Japanese names.
Japanese is just a little far from our vernacular.
Sorry.
We apologize.
Anyways, today the new president, Shuntaro Furukawa. You know, it was announced a couple months ago when the other guy was retiring that this guy was going to take over, and today was his first day actually being in the role of presidency, and he had some very interesting comments and announcements today. Garrett, what were those comments?
So, I mean, to be fair, on a kind of a landmark transition like this, we would expect to kind of see, you know, some speeches. We'd expect to see some press releases. We would expect to see some new information. Mm-hmm. And we got that. And a lot of it was very generic. And, you know, not to say that I was expecting some landmark blowout from them, because I wasn't. It's a transition of power at a corporate level, and they're looking to maintain the course. So this isn't some sort of crazy E3 reveal. This isn't some sort of, like, rapid departure from things, but the new president does present an interesting, maybe the better way to say it is the new president does present some interesting hints at a shift in the agenda.
Yeah, he really, in his speech, he really, you know, said that the focus is going to be the Nintendo Switch and their upcoming online multiplayer whole service that will debut in September. What I found personally interesting is that nowhere in his statements does he mention the Nintendo 3DS at all, which goes to serve my theory that they're going to be starting to phase the 3DS out. Nintendo just had their whole like big release big trailer for the holiday season, and it's like, here, you can get the 3DS bundle with these old games. There's not a whole lot of new 3DS games coming out, and I think that this president,
honestly, nor should they be.
Yeah,
I brought this up a lot in the E3 conversation about, like, why would companies go into competition with themselves. I had a lot of sort of questions about why Bethesda would do such a thing with 76 and Rage and whatnot, and here we see kind of another presentation of that. The 3DS, in some loose sense of the word, is presentationally at conflict with the Switch. Mm-hmm. It's not a direct kind of thing or whatnot, but in a loose sense of the word, maybe less than loose sense of the word, mobile titles that are sold on the 3DS are titles that could be sold on the Switch, and they have a market share that they overlap to a certain degree.
Yeah.
Maybe to a great degree, depending on, you know, sort of your interpretation of the situation. And here's the new president stepping forward and somewhat predictably saying the future is Switch. Which is interesting because I know that there's a contingent of 3DS fanboys and fangirls out there that are very still drawn to the classic 3DS mantra, and I know we've had not a lot of announcements, but there's still some meat to the 3DS, and it's interesting because I believe with this transition we can finally and very concretely say that we are looking at the twilight of that technology.
Yeah, I really don't think there needs to be a separate portable device when your home console can become a portable device. And yeah, they want to.
Why would they not market it as such?
Yeah, and
that seems smart.
They'll sell 3DSs as long as they can, but really, I think that they're going to start to focus on games for the Switch that, you know, are like can be a comfortable portable situation as well. And obviously we'd love to see mainstream, like main series Pokemon games on the Switch that can also be played at home. And this president, without even saying it, I feel like that's the direction he wants to go.
He makes and very deliberately chose in a lot of his press releases a lot of forward-thinking sort of vernacular. He very deliberately chose a lot of words that sort of inference the idea of like we're looking to the future. We're looking to the future of this company. We're looking into the future of our sort of things, and I think he very pointillistically chose to omit a lot of like language that references old technology. He makes no mention to 3DS. He makes no mention to a lot of the classic titles. Everything that he chose to say upon his inauguration today was very based on the idea of like the Switch is the future. The online content is the future. The subscription-based online content, to be specific.
And that's what we're going to get into here in a second.
And that's all well and interesting. He also made some inferences to the idea that like, and this is a little bit more inferred. This is not as direct, but the idea that Nintendo's uniqueness and Nintendo's brand will continue to survive through larger integration, larger cooperation with the gaming industry at large. Which is an interesting and small, but not insignificant shift in kind of a lot of the verbiage that a lot of other previous people in his position have chosen, which is one of pretty stark isolationism.
Yeah. So I just think that the Switch we're going to see a shift, especially after this holiday season, where we're going to see a lot of big games on the Switch, and I wouldn't doubt it if we didn't really see any new releases for the 3DS come 2019.
And you know what? They got to let that ship sail at some point. The 3DS has been objectively a very successful console. It's definitely sold its money's worth. It's been a profitable enterprise, but Nintendo has an interesting choice with the 3DS now, because in many ways, outside of just pure market and economics sort of observation, the 3DS is going to be a somewhat direct competitor to the Switch from here going forward, especially if they're really, really going to try to elevate the Switch to like a full-blown mobile platform.
Yeah. So the second big part of news to come out of this statement, obviously, is the reconfirmation that Nintendo's online services for the Switch are going to begin starting in September. That's a month ahead of when Super Smash Bros. Ultimate comes out, which, I think a lot of people were expecting to be able to play their friends on the Switch playing Smash Bros. For free, and now there's like,
that's going to be the case.
Yeah, and again, they didn't say how much the service is going to be, but I'm going to guess it's going to be around $10 or $15 because that's just kind of par for the course there.
Right. He did mention that they're looking for an annual sale sort of thing, which means that they're not necessarily borrowing from, but they are following in a similar model that we've seen capitalized on rather successfully by Xbox Live.
Now, if we're going to be paying for an online service, I would expect them to do away with the whole friend codes thing and just let it play out like a normal subscription-based online service where we just go on a server, we play with whoever's on there, and we don't need to worry about friend codes. And, there's just, if you're paying for it, there's no need to, get it all like that, I think.
See, I think they will cling to friend codes because I think that their whole architecture is really entrenched in this friend code thing. They've done it since the Wii. They're doing it again with Pokemon Go right now. I think we're going to see the friend code thing hold strong. In fact, I think the friend code thing will become a larger integration. But functionally speaking, I think in the end of the day, it won't be all that different. Nintendo wants you to be playing with your friends. It wants you to be paying for the service ultimately, but Nintendo understands that like your best experience is tailored when you are playing alongside people who are familiar to you and not necessarily just random engagement sort of situations.
Now, generally, Garrett, do you think that this overall is a good idea? Because in an age where Steam and PC gaming is becoming so more popular than it ever was, and you can just jump on and play multiplayer with just your internet service, and you don't have to pay an extra internet service fee to play multiplayer games, is it a good idea for consoles to continue to demand subscription fees to play online. It's like I want to I'm gonna play Smash Bros, but it's like, would I as a casual gamer be more inclined to play a multiplayer game on PC rather than paying a $10-15 price every month to be able to play Smash Bros? Because what other multiplayer game? They haven't really announced any other major online multiplayer games yet.
Right. Well, we do have what is it? ARMS. ARMS is something that could potentially, you know, fall into this business model.
Oh, sure.
And then we also have
Mario Kart. All
Kart.
of those probably are going to get new updates that align with this new online
And we also
service.
have, holy shit, why am I forgetting the name of the Squid People one?
Splatoon.
Splatoon.
Sorry.
Thank you. Jeez. Okay. Newbie moment. But all of these, and I to answer your question, I think yes, I think they can. I think this is a reasonable course of action for them. And that's coming from the perspective of somebody who is a PC gamer, predominantly. I make no reservations about the fact that I pretty much play exclusively on PC, and I'm used to multiplayer being a certain thing. But when we look at the PlayStation Network, when we look at the undeniably tremendous success of Xbox Live, we see that there are a lot of people out there who are not interested in engaging with the kind of this PC online thing and this direct, or a dedicated server sort of thing. The PC market, as somebody who has loved and played within the PC online spectrum for many years, has a lot of pros and cons. The private server thing in of itself is a discussion of some length that even gets into the idea of like, so many PC games could benefit from highly regulated servers. So many PC games suffer from the fact that people can just create a server willy-nilly and tailor their own experience with mods, custom content, and all this sort of stuff. And some of this really benefits and some of this really detracts from it. The PC multiplayer universe is way more just a wild west of multiplayer gaming, and that's fair.
And probably more than any other console on the market right now, people that play the Switch there's more like, like people that play Xbox games, I don't want to generalize too much here, but if you're more likely to also play PC games if you play Xbox.
Correct.
If you play Nintendo,
Microsoft cross-platform is an easy one.
If you play the Switch, you might just be a kid who has a Switch and doesn't really play PC games.
Right.
So, those kids are going to want this service, obviously, to play Smash Bros. And if you're a huge Smash Bros guy, you're going to want to get this anyway so you can finally live out your multiplayer Smash dreams.
Did the newly indoctrinated president, not just reaffirm the idea that, like, the yearly access fee will also come with a generous host of selections to classic NES titles?
Yeah, that's another thing. So, you're going to get like a bunch of access to classic Nintendo games and other features when you get, and I think it sounds like you'll have to pay yearly for it instead of monthly, and you'll just pay a big yearly fine. I'm sure they'll figure out the details later, but yeah, you're going to have access to a bunch of other stuff, so you're not just feeling like you're just getting an online service, you're also getting a bunch of other content as well. So, I think they'll do it in a way that pleases everyone, and it won't be too like, well, here's this, so.
To just sort of answer your question directly, and you've already more or less answered it, the idea, I don't feel like there's a large crossover between, like, really dedicated Switch players and really dedicated PC environment players.
Right.
Not to mention
we are.
We don't represent the end of average fan in that regard. And people like us might be willing to shell out a little extra money to get a good experience on the Switch, multiplayer wise, because it is so unique. And the idea that PC world, it's largely free, but you're kind of dealing with what you can find and what you can get. Dedicated servers versus official servers are often a wild discrepancy in experience, and also PC games in general are wildly plagued by hackers, by subverters, by people who are in general, trying to undermine that system. You don't get that on consoles so much, and as we've seen on Xbox Live, save a few, sort of key controversies, Xbox has pretty consistently delivered on the idea that they can create a regular experience for people who are paying their fees. And I believe that Nintendo can deliver on the same thing. And, as we've already established, a lot of the hardcore, Switch players are not going to be big PC players. They're just two different markets. Business-wise, this seems like a sound decision. And furthermore, I like the idea as much as I don't love paying money for something that I think I don't have to pay money for, I do like the idea that I'm getting something out of my money. And if that's consistent experiences on the multiplayer servers that are highly regulated, mostly bot and hacker free, and you know, super consistent in their overall delivery, that's worth money to me as somebody who has suffered through what PC multiplayer can be a lot of the times, and how wild and unfair and, you know, just absolutely unregulated it can be. Yeah. So there's a pro and con to this. I'd be interested to see their price point. They're probably going to come out at something that's level with Xbox Live, and you know what? I think people will go for it.
Yeah. Well, more about that when we have more details at some point in the future.
Yeah. In general, I want to say that the new president, and again, I'm going to butcher the name, but Mr. Furukawa. Everybody knows who I'm talking about. I want to say that a lot of people have had some unkind words for him, especially when his presidency was announced about 2 months ago. A lot of people were very critical of kind of his new mission and whatnot. I want to say, at the risk of criticism here, tentatively, that what I've seen so far I actually support. I like his idea because I think he's got a very progressive notion of things. I think he has a very open-minded approach to how Nintendo will proceed in the future. And quite honestly, as much as I'm a big Nintendo fan, I've been a little bit back and forth on certain decisions that they've made. You know, a classic example would be like, you know, Pokemon is now just barely making its way onto the Switch. There's a lot of, you know, just kind of licensing limbo that a lot of the titles have existed in. We haven't seen a lot of word on Metroid. There's just a lot of hesitancy there. And it seems like this new president has a purpose about him. And I honestly hope I hope he's tremendously successful, because at a glance, he might be exactly what Nintendo needs.
Yeah, I agree. All right, well, moving on to another subject. There is a new character coming to Overwatch. He's not already in the game, right? Like,
no, but PTR is a thing.
Okay.
You know, the public test run will have him available immediately. Once he's done in his PTR form, he will be unleashed into the game writ large. And he's already stirring up a little bit of a controversy within the Overwatch group.
So, in a fantastic, and remember, we once had a Twitch channel just called Rich Plays Overwatch. So we've played Overwatch.
We're Overwatch fans. We are.
In a game with all of these awesome, unique, diverse characters, and you know, just like, you know, like as Garrett would actually, Garrett, you talk about how great the character is, and then I'll say who Hammond is.
Yeah, for sure. So I was talking to Rich about this earlier, and you know, the social context of a lot of gaming stuff weighs really heavily on me, and I know not a lot of people are interested in this diatribe, and it's kind of off-putting to a lot of people, but it's super important to me. The idea that here's Overwatch, a very, very prominent AAA game that is giving cultural and social agency to a lot of underrepresented groups, it's a big reason why I love Overwatch. You know, here we have a lot of characters not only portraying culturally relevant, if exaggerated, but still like very culturally sound presentations of underrepresented groups, and everybody's a badass in their own right. They've created this beautiful world where the world can still be somehow post-apocalyptic and dealing with all this heavy stuff, but every nation has risen to the call in this beautiful and really pragmatic way. And
now you can play as a giant hamster in a giant hamster ball.
And for that reason, I'm a little, at my first glance, I was like, this is really off-brand. Like, this is, what? Like, how are we, like, we just got off all this, like all this cool, oh god, I'm already forgetting the names, but like the last few characters already brought up like a really cool, like optimistic presentation of like futuristic versions of Iraq, and a more pragmatic version of like the Middle East that has like subtle but very like large shaking political ramifications. With Doomfist, we got a really very futuristic presentation of a lot of Central African nations and a lot of that sort of visuals. And we get all this really cool social stuff. And we get a hamster. So I'm a little bit like, all right, Blizzard, what do you where you at?
So obviously,
this character feels very League of Legends to me.
They've been drinking the funny juice over at Blizzard.
I don't want to say that because I was pretty on board with the idea that I'm like, this is weird because this looks like a League of Legends.
I just love the idea that they were like in a serious business meeting, or like, we've had all these great culturally diverse characters. Who's next? And the intern comes in and is like, wouldn't it be cool if we had a giant hamster? And they're like, you know what?
Yeah. So, and here's the problem. Here's the worst part. He's cool.
Yeah.
He's actually super neat. The worst part is I want to look at him and be like, hey, excuse me, where are you going with this? Like, where does this fit within the overarching Overwatch story here? But I just see him and I see him in action and I'm like,
it's pretty cool.
You're neat.
It looks pretty cool.
This stinks, but you're freaking neat. Like what's up?
So lore-wise, he's supposed to have been created by the same guy who created Winston. And if you're not familiar with that,
same group of individuals who took up residence upon the moon, where a lot of animal uplift sort of technologies and experiments were going on. If you're familiar with the Overwatch lore, eventually the animals would overthrow the humans in the lunar colony and kill them brutally, which contributes to a lot of kind of the underlying guilt in Winston's backstory. But
Winston, here's the thing for me. Winston was mostly believable because gorillas are already extremely intelligent. They just needed that little extra oomph to be, like sentient, and I mean, some would argue they are sentient. I would even argue maybe they're sentient.
Right.
And but
that's a divergent zoological conversation that doesn't belong on videological talk, but here you heard it here first. Gorillas are sentient.
To get to Winston's level of self-awareness and everything, it doesn't take that much, and was explained beautifully in his backstory, which is fine. But then to say, okay, and then
he's got a tearjerker of a cinematic.
Yeah. But then to say, oh yeah, we also grew this hamster to human size and made him super intelligent too.
He's not human size.
That's like, well, he's pretty big. Like, okay, maybe he's like
big for a hamster.
He's like 4 foot tall or something like that. He's pretty big. And to say that they grew a hamster to that size and then made him, and he's supposed to be super intelligent too. It's like, okay, but that's like 10 extra steps away from Winston. Like how. What? It's like there's barely an explanation. Just like, yeah, we were working on this hamster too, and oh man, we didn't know how big and smart he was gonna get, but there he is. It's just like, okay, a little bit of a lazy explanation. Still cool though. At the end of the day, though, when you're looking at the gameplay and you see him rolling around his ball, and then he can hook a wire to like walls and swing like a wrecking ball,
like a literal wrecking ball, which is what he calls his mech,
and then like come out of the ball to shoot like 2 huge turrets. Like he plays really well. I just maybe wish it made a little bit more sense,
Yeah, he looks like a Yordle. If you're a League of Legends fan and you're familiar with the Yordles and all they present, he fits the Yordle dynamic perfectly. So I was really off-put initially. I was like, why does Overwatch need a Yordle? Why does Overwatch need this really, really tired and drug through the ground by League of Legends mechanic where, like, the little hamster races have gotten ahead by building super battle mechs and squaring off against the rest of the, like, legitimate magical squaring heroes of the land? Like, League of Legends has beat that to death.
Yeah.
And, I mean, if we had to dig into, like, anime and a lot of other Japanese media writ large, we would get even into more analogs where, like, this has been really, really, developed into exhaustion.
He's a cute character that people will enjoy, and eventually we'll get over ourselves and just come to love
I know. If there's a cinematic, as I told Rich earlier, I'm one tearjerker cinematic away from being like, I love him. I love Hammond. Sort of thing. And the one that they did release is pretty cool. It's kind of the implication that he, like, launched himself off the moon in this escape pod and landed in the wasteland somewhere and then, like, went to a scrapyard and built the mech around his escape pod and then became some sort of wasteland, like, war-fighting champion and whatnot. And, like, there's all these cool implications, but I haven't bought it yet. But to your point, to Rich's point, when you look at gameplay, he looks like a breath of fresh air. He looks like a really... Because we've known for a long time that just the defensive character's mechanic, as far as, like, what the defensive characters and, like, that repertoire has been able to offer you in a while as far as Overwatch is concerned, has been a little underdeveloped. We know that we've gotten a bunch of new offense characters, we've gotten some new support characters, but we haven't really seen a lot of new defensive characters. I'm hoping he's revealed as a defensive character because from the looks of the PTR footage, he's beefy. He's hard to kill. You know, like he was like 3v1ing in a big segment of the videos we watched. So I don't know. I'm very optimistic gameplay wise and a little bit pessimistic as far as like the overarching story implications of this, but that's enough of that.
Right. Well, I think unless we have anything else, I'm ready to answer last week's question.
Let's answer
which
last
was,
week's question.
you know, in last week we were talking about E3 because E3 was the week before. Our question from last week was, what was the biggest disappointment you guys had with E3 2018?
Yeah.
So, Bobby Dog 66 says, for the question of the week, I mean, I knew I wasn't going to get burnt out from EA because of Need for...
which is a game.
I wasn't going to get burnout from EA because of Need for Speed, but still, I wanted burnout. Also, man... sorry, like, unless you went full on art house with each of the very few games you had, doing that special thing for The Last of Us kind of fell flat. Though I will say, oh my god, The Last of Us 2 is like playing a movie, but it's an actual game. Also, Waluigi was robbed again this year for Smash. Assist trophy and enough.
Well, shout out to Bobby Dog 56 for the realist read of E3 2018.
Yeah.
For starters, I love to Burnout. I've always loved to Burnout more than Need for Speed, if only because of its... I grew up playing the SSX series, and like the recycling of DJ Atomica was like a really familiar place for me. Also, it was like the first racing game that I really dove into hardcore. The physics were really interesting at the time, even though they're really primitive looking at it now. A new Burnout game would be dope, so we're level on that.
Yeah.
You know what? Burnout Battle Royale.
DJ Jacob 99 says, my biggest disappointment for E3 was that there was no Borderlands 3.
Same. Well, I don't know that it was my biggest disappointment, but we were pretty full on expecting a Borderlands 3 reveal. It was a part of the Walmart release, which was proven at least to be partly valid by Bethesda's subsequent comments on Rage. You know, they validated that at least there was something going on there. And then Splinter Cell, which I'm not a big Splinter Cell fan. That series is a little, you know, over the hill for me. But Borderlands is very relevant to my interest. Big Wasteland fan, you know, as you've seen from all my Fallout obsessions. You know, that's just whatever. But we were expecting a Fallout, or not a Fallout. We weren't expecting a Fallout reveal and we got one. Meanwhile, we were expecting a Borderlands reveal and didn't get one. Is that a trade I would make? Maybe. I don't know. But yeah. Borderlands 3 should be coming around, you know, the horizon soon.
Philip Byer says, ignoring the mess that was EA/Star Wars, I'm most disappointed that there was no big reveal at Nintendo. Not that there needed to be, but it would have been nice. No release date for Monster Hunter World on PC was also disappointing. And I think what he's saying is, you know, kind of like what I've echoed too, is that they didn't make an official announcement for Metroid Prime 4. There was no announcement for like a new Star Fox. Heck, there wasn't even really a new announcement for anything past Breath of the Wild for Zelda.
There really wasn't. And they had Smash. Smash came in force.
Yeah. Super
Smash Brothers destroyed the show and was clearly like the unabashed flagship of the Nintendo conference. And that's fine. Smash is great.
That's what will sell consoles.
And I have unbelievable expectations for the new Smash. Every single thing that they've shown me so far really speaks to the idea that this Smash is going to be really good.
Right.
Although I am going to reference back to Bobby Dog and say Waluigi got robbed. I'm down with that. Waluigi for Smash.
There's tons of months between now and October to announce new characters, and I really hope that every month we're going to get that thing that they did like with the previous games where it's like new challenger approaching. And
Simon Belmont and Waluigi remain too unaddressed, you know, sort of like shortcomings for me.
But Nintendo has their big AAA title with Smash, so they didn't need to announce anything, but at the same time, I know I want more titles.
Monster Hunter World on PC, none of that was disappointing, because again, I'm predominantly a PC gamer, and I would really enjoy if a Monster Hunter World made its way to my grasp, because I'm super interested in that.
Right. The last person who answered our question was MartyMan641. Thank you, Marty Man. You always
Marty Man's 100% on those answers. So shout out to you, buddy.
Yeah, he says the most devastating part that happened at E3 in my watch was witnessing Waluigi doesn't get a chance in Smash Ultimate.
Y'all salty about that.
You added Daisy as an Echo Fighter, but not Waluigi. Now the game is still being developed, and Ridley was added due to the high demand by fans. So hopefully,
which was cool. Ridley is an awesome addition.
Yeah. So hopefully Sakurai will have a change of heart and finally see him see him from his assist trophy. And yeah, I think that, yeah, if they add Ridley, they gotta have Waluigi. I mean, come on.
We're into some deep cuts at this point.
The thing is, it's like, you know, Mario's had his own game, Luigi's had his own games, Wario has even had his own games.
Have you seen those games, or those memes that, like, show, like, Master Hand, and, like, it pans out and it's Waluigi's hand?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that, you know, I think that maybe the reason why they've been so hesitant is perhaps because Waluigi, up at least until this point, he's only ever been a side character in like Mario Party / like tennis games, and he's never really been a significant.
He's really been a character that like the fans brought.
Yeah, yeah.
The limelight,
like,
not like anything that Nintendo was really invested in.
Wario started out as the main villain of the like Super Mario Land 2 on the Game Boy. He was actually a main villain of those games before getting his own Wario Land games. And obviously Waluigi's like, well, what if Luigi had a doppelganger? Yeah. And, you know, we get Waluigi. But I, personally, I wouldn't mind. I definitely want Waluigi in Smash as a playable character. But my message to Nintendo is that I would also like to see Waluigi play a bigger part in a main Mario game.
He's become so profilific, and they can't deny it. So there is that. And, you know, just more Waluigi all around.
Right. And now, stemming off from that, we'll ask this week's question, which is, now that Nintendo has a new president, what new things from Nintendo would you want to see? Do you want to see them completely get rid of their portable side, like no more DSs at all? Do you want to see a new 4DS or something? Do you think that they should just stick to the Switch? Do you think that they should really start getting into their AAA titles? Do you want to see more Metroid? Do you want to see more Star Fox? Do you want to see more Zelda? Even though we just had Odyssey, do you want to see more Mario?
Right.
What do you expect from Nintendo now that we've just started a new era?
And I should clarify, we understand that you want to see Waluigi for Switch.
Yeah, but don't ask that, because we already know that.
We got that. We got that Waluigi for Smash is a big crusade, and we are on your side.
Yeah.
We don't need to hear that one anymore.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching Video Game Talk every Thursday right here on the... Or sorry, every Friday morning, because we switched it now. Every Friday morning right here...
Is it Friday morning?
Well, it's not Friday morning for us, but every Friday morning right here on the Rich Albert channel. Subscribe, hit the bell, then click all to hopefully get notified. And then don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. And even if you don't answer our question, just write a comment. It could even be, I hate you. I don't care. As long as you write a comment, it helps the algorithm.
All right, I'll take one shot for every I hate you comment.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.